Guys, intro time.
Wait, which intro?
The wisdom check.
Oh, good.
Wait, no. I thought we were keeping the old intro. What's wrong with the old one? People like that one.
It was too long.
Yeah.
Too many fucking gifs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can we keep the part where I yell more?
No.
But it's the intro to end all intros.
I got like what? 2 lines last time?
Do you want more lines, Tim?
Well, no, not really.
In a world without answers.
Yeah.
Wait, do you want to start with that?
Here we go. Exactly like last time.
Wait, okay, so we're doing it the exact same way? Let's start with the Smoky Bar.
No. It's a new season. We have to have a new intro.
More.
Not sure why we thought this would go any differently.
Oh, well. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Check, where Jeff and Dustin welcome a guest every week to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome.
This is ridiculous. I'm starting the stream now.
Wait, where's my die at? Well, we can't start until I botch, and it's not an intro unless I'm botching.
You're on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wisdom Check. And today we are joined, just the two of us again. We're Dustin and Jeff. Dustin, hello, welcome.
Hey, it's good to be back again. It's another Monday night. We're here with the Wisdom Check. It's me and Jeff, and we got some spoilerific talks to have tonight.
Super
Based
spoiler.
around a topic that has become near and dear to our hearts in the last 48 hours, let's say.
Yeah, almost twice.
Almost twice. I didn't have any fear in Zweihander because I knew you had fate points stocked up. So it was more of a, do I just want to make him burn one or not? And I probably should have.
You should have, yeah.
I probably should have,
But yes, so if you do not want spoilers for the Everstorm campaign, we're going to be talking a lot about Levi's homebrew game that we just played this weekend, and there are going to be some significant spoilers at play here. So if you don't want to know, now is your time. So yes, Crazy Ike. You're probably going to have to be out. We'll appreciate the lurk. But, significant spoilers.
I'm curious, because Levi, who's here, told Crazy Ike not to watch it on purpose. So I'm curious how long Clint has to wait before he can watch it.
Yeah, that is a good question. All right, so...
If he hasn't seen the title of the episode, though.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, so exciting, interesting things happen. We want to make sure that Crazy Ike in particular doesn't get spoiled because reactions are important. And once Crazy Ike has turned off his sound, which is now apparently, and hopefully he won't look at the words coming up on the screen. So for the rest of you guys that are still here, it sounds like most of you guys are okay with spoilers.
Has anybody done any kind of welfare check on Air Laser? Have we checked to make sure Air Laser's not here right now too? That's the other.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know yet. No.
Oh man.
She's last I checked, she was out on holiday, out in the middle of the freaking wilderness, like somewhere without internet connection. So, it's gonna be a shock for a lot of people out there. And hey, Joker, welcome.
Hey, Joker.
So we got Mouse, we got Joker, we got Animal G, we got Leviathan. So it's a good crowd out there. We got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And we'll go ahead and get to it because we've talked about this before, and we talked about moving on from a character.
Number 1.
Number 1 was it? It wasn't number 1, was it? Was it the second half of number 1?
Well, okay, it might have been episode 2 because you cut episode 1 into 2 and you put them on YouTube.
Yeah, that could be. That could be.
It was the first episode though.
Well, we did talk about it way early, so it was a good time to come back to it. The last time we did it, it had to do with a person retiring a character. And we talked about, what to do when you need to retire a character. If you're not having a good time with them, if you're just not gelling with the group, if it's just kind of the end of a story, like that kind of stuff. Now, the flip side of that is when it isn't voluntary. And that's what we ran into sort of this weekend. And that sometimes accidents happen, and sometimes dice do not love you. And that's what we ran into on Saturday.
No matter how many of them you're given.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I had a lot of dice.
We're going to talk about this in some detail here. To set the stage, just on a mechanics level, you were in a position where you had to make death saves.
I was making death saves, yeah.
And the first one you just made on your own with just one die.
No, I just failed.
No. What I was saying is you only rolled one die.
Yeah.
You rolled one die.
Mm-hmm.
For your next sets of death saves, I had taken character actions that gave you advantage, so you were rolling 2 dice for the consecutive saves.
Had advantage.
That's a total of
Take the
5
best.
dice, Jeff.
I know.
And none of them rolled bigger than 6, if I remember correctly.
No, I succeeded on 1 death save, so I had
you did?
one
So-
in my favor. So the second one I made, and then after that it was fail. Like,
Okay,
I didn't roll above a 9 in 5 dice, I think it
5
was.
dice.
Yeah. Which is just
That's
staggering.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredibly hard to do.
Yeah. Well, if there's somebody who could pull it off, it's this guy. So, what was interesting though about that is I think it was the right time for that to happen. I think
Right.
in terms of story, yes, it's not quite resolved, and there are certain loose strings still hanging out there. Yes, Sarah, you're right. I didn't bring it. Yeah, that was bad. Earlier in the night, I had said bring it, and then immediately botched something. So it was bad. But I did not yell bring it when it came to my death saves. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to rewatch it to make sure. But with this sort of stuff, though, what I think we're probably going to focus on it. I'm assuming the same idea as what Dustin wants to get into is just recognizing when it's time to step off the stage.
Yeah.
Because it's D&D, there's a lot of ways you can bring the character back. I mean, there's resurrections, there's reincarnation, there's revivify, there's who knows what other options. And in this case, multiple versions of the character running around that I could have just picked up and walked around with. And
Right.
I don't really think that would have been a good choice. Like, you and I have talked about this in the past, knowing that when a character goes down, I like that to be it. I don't really like resurrection as a mechanic unless it's like really earned, something like very special. Because I like the idea of finality and giving weight to scenes, coming forward. And, as we saw in this scene, there is now a fire in the PCs that wasn't there before.
Right.
There is a rage and anger, revenge. There's loss, and there's an opportunity, I think, for these other characters to really go somewhere. Like to get some real raw drama out. And I don't want to take that away. I think it's going to be an opportunity for those characters to shine. And I think that the story that remains to be resolved is still going to get done. Because I think the players will want to know, and I think it'll have to come up because it's now an issue, within the campaign.
Yeah, it was a moment that I think might rewrite the trajectory of the rest of Levi's Everstorm game.
It could.
I didn't feel like Twixelplix was really necessarily like big bad in guy material.
Yeah, I didn't think he was necessarily a bad guy either, but he could be.
But
No.
he kind of has that potential now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Potentially
the
a doomsday
crazy-
machine. Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is that like it's rare to find a character who dies without taking a point of damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't blast you in a combat into oblivion.
Nope.
You died by your own plot device.
Mm-hmm.
Like one that Levi wrote, but you've helped write over the course of 2 years of playing the character. So
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a big thing. It's interesting because actually I did take damage, but I only took it from my own party.
Yeah, but that's not what killed you. You
No, it
didn't get
wasn't.
reduced to 0 hit points and go to death saves. You
So-
skipped that whole process, went right to the death saves.
Yeah. Now, this will end up on YouTube later, so there's a potential that people haven't understood what happened in this scene. And I'm looking at the chat here. Most of you guys I know were in the chat for Saturday night, so you guys all know what happened. So I was going to say maybe we should recap it here for them, but Dustin's got his headset off. There he is. I was going to say maybe we should
Sorry, I
recap
give
the
my
scene.
phone to my 4-year-old. So.
Important stuff.
Yeah,
but just for the
probably
people who may not know what happened, maybe we should kind of recap the scene. And I'm actually curious what all you saw because you were on your cell phone and maybe there's some
I had a
holes.
problem hearing some people because of my cell phone.
Yeah, so I'm wondering maybe you should tell the story and then I could fill in holes that you may not know.
All right, so from Bowron's perspective, and this was a fantastic role play opportunity for me as Bowron to begin with, because first and
Mhm.
foremost, Bowron has always, when it came to Fulcrum and Skeezer in particular, less so with Wrighton. Wrighton was pretty self-secure kind of in his who he was, what he was doing, and so on and so forth. But particularly for those two characters, Bowron has always told them that their goals and objectives were sort of, in his mind, kind of bass-backwards. Like,
Mhm.
they've always been looking at this basically the wrong way. That they're looking for, some sort of validation based on their creator and not just being who they were going to be and just breaking away from everything and moving forward. So in all the conversations in the staircase and everything leading up to that point, and when we get down to that point where everyone's trying to decide, and Fulcrum is kind of arguing with Bowron, like, hey, we can't let Skeezer do this. It might kill him. And Bowron's like, this is what he's meant to do. Like, everything he's done to this point has been to get to here. And now he's here. And you're going to make him walk away? Like, so Bowron kind of like pushed Skeezer onto the table almost in a way.
A little bit. You offered up a phrase that
Yeah.
was important. There was a reference to somebody there. And go ahead, if you need to take care of something, I can.
I don't know what's
Bridget
going on behind me. I think someone's talking. I can barely hear with my headphones on. I'll be right back in just a second.
Sure.
Carry on.
Yeah. So what was going on there is we found ourselves in kind of contact with a weird wizard that was a duplicate of my character, or rather, I was a duplicate of him. And he was hidden on this island. We found him. We tracked him down, and he ported my character into this weird world inside of an infinity tower kind of thing. And we went up these stairs, and there was this whole room filled with other duplicates doing menial tasks and stuff. And there was basically some like vague references to the fact that my character had inside of him a device that was supposed to be some kind of like engineering marvel, some kind of special super spell or something. But this NPC didn't really know what it was. And he also didn't know exactly how to get it out or what would happen because he had apparently wiped his own memory. But he knew he had to get it. And so we got put in this situation basically where my character was incredibly curious about everything. So like he never worried about danger. He was always the first to kind of like walk to and talk to a demon or, like go swim up to the surface of something, not knowing if that's going to be oblivion or not, like all kinds of weird stuff kind of went on with Skeezer. So to me, it was pretty much a given that he was going to let him do the experiment. But it kind of got driven home because you were talking in character a little bit about a previous NPC, Duz, and you had mentioned, if talking about Duz triggered the thought, if I don't go through with this, then Duz died for nothing. And earlier in the games, we'd been kind of experimenting with some aspects of this and accidentally winked one of the other duplicates named Duz into non-existence. And up until this scene, my character Skeezer had kind of been in denial that he was dead and just kind of assumed that he was somewhere, just didn't know where he was. But the bad guy essentially said, yeah, he went back from where he came, which essentially means he's dead. He's like oblivion bait, So like for me as a character, or as the player of the character, I was kind of looking at it knowing that this is the scene where he has to go do his thing. And there needs to be risk there. I assume there's risk there. And I kind of like looked at how it would play out either way. You know, if I made it, cool, we get some more story resolved. If I don't, it's a story beat that's really interesting. And to me, both those outcomes were okay. So that's where we went with it. But you were saying, though, from Balron's perspective, you were encouraging us to kind of follow through.
You know, Balron's not one who shies away from danger at any point in time. But at the same point in time, like, Balron didn't have a whole extra ton of interest in what the device was.
Mm-hmm.
Or if, you know, Twixelplix was right or wrong or anything like that. It wasn't so much a moral decision for Balron. It was more of a, like, he had seen this gnome, contemplate whether or not he's even a gnome, or if he's something else. And I think that by the time we got to that point, we were able to answer that question already, that we, due to our academy mages that weren't really mages, and through Duz's, you know, incident and everything else, I think we had all kind of Balron had come to a conclusion, I will say. I guess I can't speak for the other players, that Skeezer and the other Skeezers were not true people in that sense.
Right.
That they were a construct, like a golem of some sort, given some sort of intellect and life and some sort of sentience. For whatever this madman's reasons were, they had it. So, you know, and I think Balron knew that. I think that's why he kind of poked at Skeezer along the way and was like, you're just going to find disappointment at the end of this. Like,
oh, for sure.
You're not going to see this thing through to the end and walk away with anything that's going to give your life any meaning. And so I think that's where I was up to that point where he decides to open you up, even to the point that I kind of had like talk Fulcrum down a little bit and get Fulcrum on board with the idea. And then just to watch the whole thing start to unravel and go bad.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't going too bad at first, but it went there real quick. And it's interesting. One of the things I think is important about this scene is, as a player, when you go into a scene knowing that there is some risk involved, it's important to really recognize the moment. Now, I kind of recognized it, but I didn't really think that was going to die. Like, I thought, it's a possibility, but it's a long shot that that'll happen. You know, like, odds are in my favor. I'll be fine, you know.
And Levi's not known for killing characters. So
unless they're mine. Just joking. But it's interesting because I kind of came into it thinking, you know, the character's kind of silly and funny, so he's going to kind of poke fun at it. But then there's also this kind of element of seriousness coming through from some of the roleplay with the other characters. So, like, all three of you guys, in your own ways, were kind of getting a little serious with things and a little bit of worry. Mostly from Fulcrum, some from Morgaine, and a little smidge, but more than I've ever seen from Balron at this scene. And so I realized that, you know, I needed to kind of think of, like, if I do die, what are my last words? You know, like, maybe those should be kind of important. And they almost were. Almost. But then
you had a great line, and then at some point got
tricked into saying something
about it, and you got tricked into saying another thing that ended up being your last words. So
yeah. So if anyone's wondering what the technical last words of Skeezer were, let's see. The final words uttered: metaphors for doors. Got it.
That's it. That's what we're putting on the t-shirt.
Now, there were some lines before this, though, that were fucking killer, and I was pretty happy with them. I went rewatched it just to see what they were. And there's a lot of interesting back and forth, but I won't go all the way back to see, like, kind of the earlier stuff. But, like, there's one kind of exchange with Fulcrum that's fucking hilarious, and it's Skeezer says, I'm always excited to find out what happens. I just hope I'm there to find out. And Fulcrum says, and if what happens is you die and give a potentially evil wizard a machine to destroy the world? And Skeezer says, well, I got a lot of trust in you guys. And he's like, well, that's true. And I'm pretty confident that no matter what happens, you'll know what to do. And, like, the second I said that, like, not even like a beat missing, you know, you'll know what to do, Fulcrum immediately says, you know what, Skeezer? I never had the chance to kill my dad for what he did. So if this goes wrong, I'll kill your dad for what he did. Done. Like, that should have been it right there.
Yep. That is, and they just quoted that MLG did in the chat, so.
Yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. And I think as a result of kind of how this played out, obviously, there were some serious repercussions. Skeezers dying on the table, looking like an inanimate object after the device is pulled out of them. It becomes very clear that Twixelplix doesn't care and is, walking off to go inspect the device. And Skeezer he'll reanimate at some point. Don't worry about it. I don't give a shit. And the party's, Morgane's getting very intense, yelling, fix him, shooting arrows and stuff. And of course, Balrin rolls in, tries to stick the trident into him to kind of reanimate him with another battery kind of thing. And then he dies. And you guys end up in a big bad guy fight with a giant dragon and a mad scientist.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was a fight, but it kind of wasn't. We were just laying into this thing, but all of its actions were spent just trying to escape. I mean, Lima was just shooting for fair escape as best.
Oh yeah.
And he eventually got there by feeble minding me. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joker, I think you're right. You're saying that you feel like, depending on the game, the character death could be more brutal than others. Like D&D tends to have epic deaths, while COC death is cold and ruthless because of how hostile that universe is. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why I was okay with what happened, is that it wasn't just some stupid random scene. Right? It wasn't like, we had a random encounter with some bugbears, and one of them slapped me once, got lucky with a crit, and I died. Yay!
Yeah.
That would have sucked. I would have been like, guys, where's that resurrection spell? Hook it up, I
mean, we're at a level where that's hard to have happen already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'd be hard to have a random encounter go sideways at 10th level.
You would think. I mean, it's still possible, but it's unlikely. And in 5th Ed, it for a long time felt like it was impossible. Like the healing is really potent. It's pretty hard to die legitimately in 5th edition, it seems. But in this scene, it felt right. It felt like there were multiple decision points, and each one I made a choice, and as a result, I feel okay with whatever happens, Right.
Yeah, no, and I think that I've had a few points in time where those sorts of things have happened, and I always reference the one from Larp, where what happens is, and this is a philosophy that I make with my characters, and I don't mean you have very different character philosophies sometimes when it comes to how we make them.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I always say is like, if you don't help your DM write your character's demise, then you will eventually hit a point where you either become an NPC or you have really nothing left to do with your character. You're just there for the rest of the story. When you think of the way that like a lot of books are written, or the way that a lot of those characters, they have their moment early in the plot, and then they're just kind of like Drax the Destroyer, right? Like, he had his moment pretty early, and then he was just kind of there for 3 more movies, not doing his thing. So like you could peak pretty early. So to me, those are the moments where if you're not gonna die there, something real important has to come back out of it, or otherwise you're like left with, well, now what?
Yeah. Well, and I guess it depends. It depends on how you've put yourself into the story. So, like in a LARP setting where we're talking about like with the vampire thing, LARP is while it's multiple characters and the interaction of all those characters is vital to what happens, at the end of the day, in Vampire, you are an individual looking for your individual, experience and place in the world. And so in that, I think that you're right. Like, once your story is peaked and it's done, you need to get off the stage immediately, because nothing good can come from staying around.
Right.
Whereas I think in D&D, if you're in a group, you can have your side plot, your main thing happen, and resolve. And I think if you are tied to the other characters and invested in their stories, it's not that big of a deal to hang around. Like, so like if I would have lived through this thing, we resolved the plot, Skeezer stuff and all of his answers already figured out, I think Skeezer would have been on board looking for like, okay, yeah, we got to figure out this Everstorm thing. Like, this is an important thing.
Yeah, and that's what I've always said. Like, you have to have. A lot of times, people get rolled down into like you just have like 4 player plots and you don't need like a main arc. But no, you do. You need a main arc because over 20 levels, if you resolve character arcs at level 10, like we have with Skeezer, if he makes it through this whole ordeal, unless that arc really manifests differently going forward. And we've answered now most of the mysterious questions about Skeezer's existence. At this point, he has to have that main arc then to gravitate back to, which in your case, like you said, is the Everstorm and what the Everstorm means. And maybe even if Twixelplix gets away, what his part in this whole thing is, though it doesn't seem like he really has a part in that thing itself. He's almost as much a victim of it as everyone else is. Like,
yeah, I think that one is, cosmic. I think we're talking legit, just gods epically fighting one another and trading spaces, so to speak. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, I think that's the way it is. Is like you need. I do think you need that secondary scene to kind of have everyone bound together a little bit. Though in some stories, I think just friendship can kind of pull the way through. If you have an actual real tight connection between characters. Like for instance,
it's
like with Fulcrum. Like I think Fulcrum has it. Yeah. So like I'm trying to think. Trying to remember some characters that you've had that have gone and like how they went and what those experiences were.
All my characters died mostly off screen.
Yeah.
And like Merrick the Brewer was the one that died on screen, if you will. We weren't streaming back then, but he died fighting the Great Worm White Dragon from the Scale Brigade. In the very big epic battle, he flew in, and he was a dragon disciple and a drunken monk, and so it was a good time for him to go. It was late in the game; we were like level 15 or 16. So there wasn't a whole lot left. So then I made Helico, who was a fun, quirky character, but he didn't have a whole lot of story. He was there mostly for comic relief and for me to just toss some big damage around.
Yeah, that is something I'm fascinated by here. Is that because that situation where you have what may be half or more than half of a campaign resolved, and then you have to bring a new character in, and we've seen a couple examples of this. So you're talking about your character. We're talking about it happened with Clint in the last campaign. Where he came back in. Once Dean died, he came back with a different character, and then I'm in the same situation now, and it's interesting because not knowing how close you are to the end makes you wonder how deep you should go into creating a character backstory.
We do kind of know how close to the end we are.
Yeah.
Our DM Levi had, and we don't have to hold him to this, and he doesn't have to hold himself to this, but he quoted us once as 100 episodes of Everstorm. So we're not even at 50. So by the time Everstorm is done, as much as we all love Skeezer, he won't even be half of the story technically. And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about.
That is real strange.
Half of the story won't be Skeezer. There's enough story left that it's very possible that at some point Clint could be done with Kodo and go on to yet another character even before this thing is over. Morgaine could have something happen. I wasn't too sure shoving that trident and there wasn't going to kill Bowron instead. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just thought, hell, Skeezer looked like a toy who just had the batteries taken out, and I had something of a divine cosmic level item, if you will, and a hand that I felt like could actually interact with whatever was going on there. So, and I know how much Levi loves last minute stunt antics, so I tried something.
It was a good move. It was a good one.
It was like when the Ghostbusters decided to cross streams, two things that weren't meant to collide. I was going to cram them into the box and see what happens. I had one more trick up my sleeve I was going to pull, but I felt like it was going to too much damage to your character if it worked. And so I opted not. But my last ditch effort I thought about doing it up right before the last death saves was to take the piece of glimmer I had left, and use it to cast Awaken. And reanimate the not alive Skeezer into a 10 intellect Skeezer.
Oh God!
Just to keep him alive long enough that we could find a way to restore him. But then I was like, I'm not positive Jeff's down for that, and we didn't have any time to talk about it ahead of time. So I was like, that might be a bridge too far.
It might have been interesting.
So I was like, I'll give him his advantage on his death saves with the trident. We'll see if it destroys the trident and I lose my ghost hand. Like, so be it. It's a rare moment of Bauer and giving a shit. So.
Yeah, and there's some stuff here in the chat that's kind of interesting that Joker's talking about.
Yeah, I wasn't reading.
Yeah, well, Joker's saying he has a rule at their table where they ask their players to pick one song to play when their PCs die or when they accept that death is here.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they had a scene where they were basically in a no-win scenario, and one PC sacrificed to making time for the rest to run, and he played Johnny Cash's "Hurt." He heard the first string of the guitar, and he understood it was his time, so he just up and went.
So wait, so they're picking that before the scene ever gets there?
Yeah, it picks a song, and then Joker plays the song, and that's when it's the scene.
Now, I like that. That's not what I thought he was
Yeah, that's not
saying.
what I thought either.
At first, I thought you were saying that they're all told to pick a song, and then when it happens, they play it as the outro, like the epilogue song. But he has it, and he starts playing it to let the player know. That's an interesting direction to go for that.
That'll bring it to your mind real quick. Because if you think about these scenes, a lot of times I think players, a lot of times players kind of feel invulnerable, I think. And, you're kind of joking around, being goofy, smiling, laughing, and that kind of stuff. And then seconds later, things turn, and it's interesting, with that kind of situation where you have the song play out, it's just oh shit, okay.
You know what it makes me think of? And this is maybe not the right way to think of this, but it makes me sound like the Oscars when the music plays and that's just get the fuck off the stage, right? That's like the GM being sorry, you don't get to thank any more people on your way out. I'm playing the song. You're done. You got to go. To me, that seems maybe a little heavy-handed on the ST part. I would almost rather the player have a little more say so in that. But it's a neat way of doing it.
It is a neat concept.
It's a neat concept.
I'm kind of on the fence too, but I think if you hear the song go, you immediately get to know, okay, I need to make these moments matter.
Yeah, it's kind of having a soundtrack, and when the soundtrack kicks in, something's about to happen. I don't hate it. I think I like it more, and I know Joker and we're going to talk with Joker on Wisdom Check in a couple of weeks. I know he plays a lot more World of Darkness. I'm down for that more for a World of Darkness character than I am for a D&D character, and I think we agree on that. But I could see that for a World of Darkness character of any of the varieties of World of Darkness.
Now, are Leviathan saying we're on game 41? Wow.
Yeah, that's probably right. So 41, like I said, and so what we went with season 2, and so the numbering has gotten
a little weird,
convoluted. Let's just say convoluted. Where Levi keeps track of them as a total run for the entire series, where the rest of us are thinking of them as viewable seasons. Which nothing wrong either way, just is what it is. But so it's just weird to think that I've got 60 more games as Bowron probably, and when you're done, you're going to have a new character start next game who has 60 games, which is longer than Skeezer lived to tell another story.
Yeah, that's crazy. Which puts on the pressure, making sure it's a character you're going to love.
So I think it's important then for you to realize as a player, you got time because Levi has quoted us a number of sessions as a minimum. He may go beyond that, but that's he wants to at least hit 100. So if that's important to him, and we're going to go that long, you've got plenty of time to make another legit character.
And I think that's important.
It's not like a Helico, like a comedy splash character like Helico was. I loved Helico. He was a lot of fun, a great concept. Nothing I could have played for 20 levels, but a great concept to come in at the end with. So,
yeah. Now in the chat, for those of you guys who are here, have you ever had this kind of scenario come up where you had to make a new character in the middle of a game? Because, yeah, Leviathan, fun is the word. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go into making a character fun. I think in these cases, we're looking at gimmick, maybe, is the word we're looking at. And gimmicks last a finite amount of time, I think. You know,
that's what Helico was. Helico was a gimmick. And I think even Clint would agree that, what was the mage's name he played at the
That's the problems. None of us even know.
Was it Talon?
Yeah, Talon. That's right.
Why do I know these things and no one else? I
remember it now, but yeah.
But Talon, I think he felt the same way about. Like, it was a neat, mechanical, cool thing for him to kind of play with at the end.
Yeah.
He didn't really have a lot of story. So.
Well, and in both of those cases, though, I think we were much closer to the end, right? Like, and I think players sensed that we were close to the end of the campaign at those points. Because I think...
well, our level is like literally like 15, 16.
Right.
And we rarely... We've talked about this at Wisdom Check. We rarely ever make it to actual 20.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know you're pretty close if you're that close to the end.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. Now, Resin Hana was saying that he'd be surprised if the cast all made it to the end. That's an interesting thing. I don't know. Like, obviously, we've got 2 new characters, but we still have... The majority of the party is still intact from the originals.
Now, I guess a good question for you. Do you feel like your character, Skeezer included, was built for the long haul for 100 sessions? Like, do you feel like there was 100 sessions of Skeezer's story out there? Like, some of it's going to get dedicated to Bowron's story and Kodo's story and Morgane's story, and that's natural. But, I mean, have you, other than LARP, have you, and even maybe including LARP, have you ever played 100 sessions of a character?
I don't think any of us have played 100 sessions as a character.
Landon Kane, I guarantee you I got 100 sessions out of Landon Kane.
Well, I probably did out of Brian, my LARP character, the Malkavian.
I was trying to remember how long he lived.
He lasted he outlasted when he should have gone. He was a case where I had a lot of fun with him, and then there was a point where he jumped the shark, and then it just kept going, and it was just never the same. And
right,
yeah, so like, yeah, I think it's the one time, but most of the time the campaign ends, or my character dies, or I retire a character and start a new one.
This would be the longest campaign for D&D that we've done.
Yeah,
at a table with the same 6 people. Like, this would be the longest campaign. I know I've got 100 sessions probably in with my Paladin Zen. But that was over the course of multiple campaigns.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think any of our campaigns have even gone 50 before.
No, because the last one, well, it's hard. I don't know how Levi numbered the last campaign with the Baron, because we had a group that died, and everyone but me made new characters. So did that start at 1 again? I don't remember. Or if he picked up with the new... I know it ended on 34, 35, somewhere in that range, I think. But there was a whole nother campaign, half of a campaign that took place before that. So for Wilhelm, it wasn't 100, but if there was 20 sessions prior to that party wipe, I made it 50 some there probably.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine this campaign going 100, honestly. Like as the same story. It's interesting. I'm curious how that pacing is going to go. Because it seems like a lot of episodes compared to what we're used to, and
it is. It's huge. It's a epically long story compared to what we're used to.
I don't even know if you can make the Lord of the Rings last 100 episode.
Well, but you get into the TTRPG world and you see it all the time.
I suppose, yeah.
I can't remember which one of the stations it was I was flipping through. Maybe it was Quest and Chaos. They were like on episode 156 of their campaign.
God.
I know that Lindy, one of my players on Zweihander, like, she's been running the same Mist of Ravenloft campaign for like 2 or 3 years. Like, and she runs every week. So we're playing like twice a month. She's not like every week. every Tuesday.
Yeah, that's intense.
She runs that same thing every Tuesday. So, like you count that up, that's over 100 sessions easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's it definitely. I don't know that any individual character has enough story to go 100 episodes. Honestly, I think because it's broken up amongst the party, there's more time to kind of extend those stories out a little bit. But I think the core story has to be pretty dense at that point.
So it's got to be substantial.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Valorant is built for the longer haul.
Yeah,
because his story isn't wrapped up in some question about his past that gets answered, resolved, and then he's done. Like that's maybe the difference with like a Fulcrum and a Skeezer as a character design, is that they had a lot of mystery to them. Like maybe not so much Fulcrum because he kind of knows where he came from, but like what he's gonna do about it or how he interacts with it. You know, there's a lot of things that can bring that to a point of character development. We're seeing that a little bit with Skeezer's death with him now. Like we're gonna maybe get a little darker Fulcrum out of this. So it's a
such interesting timing too.
Right. So
especially after that mini scene.
And you can see a bit of a pivot even with Bowron a little bit. But there's never gonna be a point, I don't think, with Bowron. He's built like more like my LARP characters in that way. Like he could continue on. And because his story, and I've said this even before this scene with Skeezer, like his story is in his future. His story is not built upon his past, which is why the Bowron's Bogus Journey, I was telling people ahead of time, like, you're going to be sorely disappointed because I'm not holding any secrets about Bowron really.
Well, I'm curious about that idea. Because that kind of, it makes me wonder, is it that you know where your character is going and you have something in mind of what his story is? Or is it just you have a character who exists that is a character?
I build my characters as people who do not control the story they're in. I don't control that narrative to a degree because I'm in a game with 4 other players and their character stories are going to interact. So I can't be a character where if it's not focused on me, he just doesn't give a shit, like, at all, like, ever.
Right.
So I have to focus on his worldview and his perception and play it more like a LARP character to a degree. Like when you're in for that kind of long haul, like he's there and his personality comes out and his point of view comes out when he interacts with the other characters' stories and things that are going on. But it's not, he's not as I like to sometimes think of it, like he's not Obi-Wan, where this clearly is Luke's story and he plays this part in it and then it passes his point and then he's done. Like he will always, and part of him can change a little over time because like I'm a firm believer that characters have to be dynamic by the time they're done. And with 100 game sessions, like, I hope you're dynamic. Bowron's still just Bowron by episode 100. Then I didn't do a very good job of playing Bowron. But, he's got a lot he's going to go through between now and then. So, but I'm patient. But at the same time, that level of patience then, like, as these other things come up with dealing with Peg and dealing with Twixelplix, and dealing with these things, those are opportunities for me to role play who my character is. But I'm not redefining him based on an answer that now defines him to the point that those were the questions I based my concept around.
Sure. Okay, so what, if anything, has changed for Bowron at this point?
For Bowron? Well, it's interesting for Skeezer with the Skeezer issue. Because Twix, I don't know what his real name is. I just call him Twixelplix.
Plixatrix, I believe, but
I call him Twixelplix. I don't know his name. Bowron never calls any of the Skeezers by their real names half the time.
It's the closest with them, though, surprisingly.
Yeah. So, which is funny because this last episode is the first time Bowron actually used the other names of the Skeezers, which maybe in a way kind of shows that
it doomed us to death.
that Bowron like had been paying far more attention to them than maybe what he had let on. because he actually referred to them all by their names instead of just calling them the Skeezers, which he had been doing like kind of passively for, 40 game sessions. But I think for Bowron, like, this is one of those rare opportunities where Bowron's been going kind of through some stuff already anyway, dealing a lot of things that I don't want to exactly discuss openly just at this point, not because I think there's conversations that will be had that will come out of all this where some of Bowron's changes will be a little more notable.
Okay.
But I think what is happening is Bowron is kind of playing the long game, and he knows that he's kind of on a mission for his goddess. And he's going to help his friends do a lot of this other stuff. And every time we do these other plots, he's picking up more pieces about what the storm is, how to fix this thing, or how to do something about it. He's attaining a certain amount of wealth and a certain stuff for other things that he's going to potentially do based on his kind of worldview. So it isn't that anything has changed other than he now knows the truth about what he believed about Skeezer, and it's just refortified his worldview of it ain't important where you came from. It's important what you decide to do from that point forward. So I think that's kind of it's refortified Bowron's position. He wasn't wrong, I guess, in his own view of this. He wasn't wrong. Like, he was right about Skeezer kind of through and through, even though I don't think Bowron's opinion was one anyone else wanted to hear.
Sure.
In particular, Fulcrum. And probably Kodo if he'd have been there. But so I think that he's just like he's kind of doubled down a little on his arrogant elfness that, like, hey, I was right. And then once I realized I was right and the truth was clearly laid out in front of us, I did take actions to try to fix this. And it just didn't work. So
yeah. Now is it? I'm kind of curious about this too, because elves being what they are, they damn near immortal. They probably view most other races as just like mayflies, essentially. They come on the scene, they're gone. Does this impact Bowron really in the grand scheme of things?
So when you make your character, for those of you making 5e characters, this, you get an ideal, a bond, a value, virtue. I don't remember what all is on the sheet. Actually, I got it right here in front of me.
Yeah,
I don't have what each one of them is, but I do happen to have this
personality, bond, flaw, and ideal. For
the bond, I rolled it on the pirate / sailor chart. And do you know what I got? Do you know what his bond is? The bond,
the ship,
as it reads, is he's bonded to the ship. Crews come and go. That is literally what it says. Crews come and go. It's the ship that's important. So Bowron's kind of laissez-faire, give a damn about his crewmates to a degree sometimes comes from that bond that I rolled in character creation. I didn't pick it off the list. It's what I rolled, and I decided to just make that a part of who Bowron is. Like, as long as his ship that he's, trying to be first mate of, and maybe not doing always the best job, but...
Well, that could be literal or it could be figurative, too, because it could be the metaphoric mission,
Well, yeah, but it tells you, that's what it says under his thing, is that the ship is what's important. Crew members will sign off and sign on with every mission. So you don't get attached to the crew members, you get attached to the ship itself. That's what Bowron's there for, is for the ship. So, it's what drove him to want to be first mate of it, because he can't really captain it because of his religious order. So that's as close as he can get to captaining. So it was always important to him. And then a lot of that got taken away from him. So now he's on a drinking bench. He doesn't get to drive the boat anymore. He doesn't have any responsibilities. So you've got like Drunkle Bowron hanging out on the ship because that's what he does. And those are things that aren't part of Bowron's backstory necessarily. They're just a part of who he is personality-wise as a character. So that comes out of him in those ways. So.
Okay, so coming out of this scene, you're basically just looking at it like, yep, that's just another guy, came and went.
To a degree, Bowron has that, but he I mean, was willing to like sacrifice his trident potentially to get Skeezer back.
Not saying that
So-
you don't care enough to try, but I'm saying as an outcome of the event, where does he feel motivated by revenge? Is he more of just like, well, it happened, you know, he did what he was trying to do, you know, like kind of thing.
It would help Bowron if he understood it. He still sees, well, for one, that Twixelplix, whatever his name is.
It never ends.
Twixelplix, whatever it is. It's I'll never say his name right unless I see it in front of me. But he kind of promised he could send us home if we let him do this, and he didn't pay up. And if there's, you know, if there's one thing you don't get to do, it's rob Bowron and get away with it. So I see Bowron taking part of it as one, you know, he did genuinely like the Skeezers.
Mm-hmm.
He did genuinely, you know, and who knows what'll happen to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's gonna see this push Fulcrum over the edge, who's now captain of the ship, and as somebody who considers himself sort of the first mate and advisor to the captain, he's gonna have to work with Fulcrum to keep Fulcrum from driving everyone else into oblivion.
Yeah.
So
Moby Dick style.
So I think there'll be a lot of interesting dynamic between Bowron and Fulcrum and Kodo and Fulcrum.
Yeah. Well, and Morgana and Fulcrum, because of the side scene. Which I don't know if you saw that or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you missed that side scene, there's an episode that Morgane's, which one it was? Morgane's, it wasn't the Bogus Journey, it was Excellent Adventure.
Excellent Adventure, yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that happened there that hasn't come up in game yet. But among the things is that he is charged with helping coax Fulcrum away from the dark side and towards the light, and giving up his stitch and all kinds of stuff. That's gonna be a tall order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his infinite supply of rum. I had not discounted that, but that is not exactly Bowron's number one reason for trying to save Skeezer, though. But it was on the list.
It's more of a reason 1.5. Yeah.
It was kind of what. Well, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much about what Bowron might do, but I was thinking that he might use the. I thought about seeing if Bowron can move the tub of rum and just set up a shrine over in Skeezer's little bunk area with it.
Oh, man. Hey, Chris Derps. Welcome to us. We're talking about some stuff tonight. We're talking about character death and dealing with it and moving on, coming in with new characters, knowing when the right time is to step away from a character, that kind of stuff. So if you got stories about these things happening in your game, let us know in the chat there. You got some other people here that have been kind of sharing little ideas back and forth and what's happened in their games with other PCs and stuff. So, yeah. I think Chris Derps was there because I remember Chris Derps showed up.
I think Chris Derps was there. So
they showed up right as I think it happened. So pretty positive.
Thank you, Animal G, for being on point with the spoilers. You know. So.
Yes. So Joker's going to tell us about his Deadlands deaths. That's a good one. And Game Master Vaults. Yeah, killing a player is illegal and frowned upon. That's true. Game Master Vault. Killing characters is okay, but yes, the player. There is a line there. Got to be careful. Yeah, Chris Derp showed up the second I died, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as he's posting there. So, yeah. Which, by the way, I was just watching the artist painting that character. So now there's a nice model getting a base coat right. So good timing, huh?
He's got to knock that one out quick so we can get that one up in the store soon. So
yeah, the limited edition.
You got to strike that one while the iron's hot, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what we've been talking about primarily is knowing when a scene is the right scene to go out. Because what we've been talking about with Dungeons and Dragons, there's a lot of things that can happen to bring a character back. You know, in this case, you know, there's resurrection, there's revivify, reincarnation, awaken, like a bajillion spells that can do it. You know, there's DMs could be coaxed into divine intervention kind of stuff. In this case, we have duplicates of the character in kind of clone form. So in theory, I could have played one of them, but I definitely will not. And we're just talking about, you know, what death does in a game. You know, it sets a tone. It changes characters that are around that death, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think for you, I mean, maybe this is something you can kind of answer or talk a little bit about. Like, I was concerned at first that maybe there was still more to this Skeezer plot that hadn't been explored.
I think there is.
That you were looking for that you weren't going to get from this plot without Skeezer being there. So first thing I thought was, as well, he could pick up one of the other Skeezers, maybe Dibbin, who had kind of lost himself, and could start to regain back. And since Dibbin's been with us the longest, would seem more like still part of the group and fitting in a way that it would be an easy transition for you to continue to still then explore, like, what you're going to do with this guy, you know, from that point on, right? So I thought maybe that would be an avenue for you, but I can also see where you don't want to, like, kind of Inigo Montoya it, right? Like, killed my father, prepare to die, like, becomes your shtick after that, I guess, if you try something like that. So is a clean break just better at that point for you?
Well, I don't see the plot as necessarily stopped as a result of this death, unless everyone else drops it, right? So, like, if you guys decide you're not interested in pursuing more information about it, then it drops. If the other Skeezers don't, then it drops. I think ultimately, if that were the case, I think I would still learn it as a player. I have a feeling that Levi would write it up as like an epilogue kind of thing with the other Skeezers and that kind of stuff. But I suspect that the other players will want to find out what's the end, you know? Maybe I'm wrong.
I guess okay, so let me ask you this. Do you think that the party ever goes looking for him without Skeezer?
You're talking about in the current situation as it is?
Initially, if we hear about this mage, and let's say we just found a few duplicate NPCs. We found a Dibbin and a Duz and a Tonko. But there was never a Skeezer who was and we don't, you know, we all know the hierarchy, the PC hierarchy, right? Your PC is a little higher than an NPC, you know, in the hierarchy of what players will go along with or won't go along with. So for these purposes, if we pick up a few of these NPCs and there's this weird sort of thing going on, we learn about this mad mage who's made all these duplicates of himself. Do you feel like the party has enough investment in that to pursue it over Kodo's Dragon or
as
Star,
that's laid out?
or...
No, because there isn't a pressing threat. There isn't a understanding of what that means without somebody who is central to it, like Skeezer. Now, if you got to this point, though, where we're at, and you have a revenge motive, you have this guy claims to have a device that could do almost anything. This guy has a device that, among the things it could do, potentially is take you home, or solve other problems that are even bigger than that, in the case of probably Balrin's story. I think because of all those carrots that are out there, and those dangling loose ends, I think that they will be pursued.
I can see that, because I can see it that way, or I could see new character joins up, and if this mage is gone, and he has the ability to blink himself to the other side of the world, the other side of the Everstorm, the other, you know, can fly off on this dragon we probably can't catch. I could also see it hitting a point where it's like a moment of defeat, and then it could very easily quickly turn to, well, that's not headed towards Kodo's Dragon, and that's not headed towards Balrin's Star. And now we're pursuing the story plot of a PC who's not really here anymore versus the new PC who is here and his new story that's getting added, and the stories of the PCs who continue to exist. And that's a tricky thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that's why I was asking you if we would ever started it without Skeezer. You see, because that's kind of where we're back at now, is do you continue without Skeezer?
I think it's very different.
Other plot lines out there.
I think it's a different scenario. Like if it was if Skeezer had never been, no, I don't think you guys would have pursued it without knowing more about it and more ramifications and stuff.
Yeah, it has to have some more ramifications for the greater arc in some way.
I mean, at this point, I would be shocked if you guys didn't pursue it, just because of the amount of potential that's there, and because of the the emotional connection for at least one of the PCs. I would be shocked, honestly. Now, if you guys decide not to, that's okay. I mean, I'm not going to be like, really upset if that story doesn't come to light. I would like to know because I think it's interesting. I think Levi probably created something pretty awesome. And what we do know is pretty interesting, and I like it. But if you guys don't, then you don't,
Like I said, I'm in it for like the long haul, so like it doesn't make a difference to me as a player if we pursue it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting above the table like discussion of is this just defeat? Is this like losing Boromir, right? Like is this because we're 40 out of 100 game sessions into this epic story, like whatever the riddle is that we have to solve to solve the Everstorm, like that's game 90 material. Like it's not going to happen at game 50. Like we might get little pieces of understanding along the way, and we learned a little about the Everstorm from this plot now, and has given us a little bit of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting then to see is like, do we take those pieces of Skeezer's story as like knowledge that we gained from his story and move forward towards other PC plots, or do we continue to chase this rabbit thinking that it can be the end game that gets us home? Like that'd
Sure.
be I can see it going either way. I don't feel like my character is the one that's really going to make that choice either way.
Mm-hmm. I think it's tricky knowing that we're not even at the midpoint, because if that's the case, then it's like I'm not clear on what the big picture is, and it's not going to become clear anytime soon.
I don't think we've seen the big bad end guy.
I don't think we have
we've
either.
Seen him.
Yeah.
I don't think we have. I think that he's holding that back. I think we're still dealing with a lot of minor story plot bosses that are tied to our characters in various ways. Like I don't think like Kodo's dragon is the end.
No.
I think there's something more prevalent. I for a while was leaning towards the concept of the 3 once 1 because it kind of got brought back up again. Yeah, Toleg is the end. He is the big bad guy.
Well, yeah, it's tricky because like there are a lot of players that are all in the same metaphorical boat. Like the devils are all dealing with the same issue. The Fae are all dealing with the same issue. The different denizens of the Everstorm are dealing with the same issue. We're all dealing with the same issue. And nobody has a handle on it except for from their own perspective. Nobody's coming together with a unified answer.
This is the last few game sessions is the first time we got any solid answers about any of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we went all the way up till the fight with Peg and the reveal of the Widow Bride, which was not intended for us to know at that point. We didn't even understand what the Everstorm was. And since that point, we spent a lot of time on the Wavan Island where we didn't get really any answers to what the Everstorm was.
Mm-hmm.
We just learned that other people were falling victim to it also. We go to Soraka Blaze. We don't learn anything about what the Everstorm is there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really until maybe a couple of the side scenes, Baron's Bogus Journey and Morgaine's Excellent Adventure, and the couple of games that happened between it, where we started to learn that like the storm's not really a storm. It's actually, it appears differently in different realms, and it's like a gate that someone can control and the rest of us can't.
Mm.
So now that we're kind of learning more about what the storm actually is, it's more of a thing than a symptom of a problem. I associated it heavily with, as you said earlier, like some things that the gods are doing, right?
Yeah, I still think it's the focus of that is still it's deities battling, and this is the ramifications of it.
Right. And it could be.
But I also don't know how to interact with that.
But now that we're seeing this thing of lightning in the middle, and we're seeing this, and it's literally a forest in the Feywild, and it's it looks different, and Morgaine even got, I think, a bit of more knowledge about it. And
yeah, he'll never remember it. So
and even Tixaplix or whatever his name was, he mentioned it, right? That it's this thing that he can't do anything hardly about either. So like to me it sounds like maybe it's not the gods. Maybe it is something entirely different. And the machinations of something that we don't even have a name for yet. Because it doesn't seem like it's Widow Bride level material either. But maybe.
I don't really know what to make of the Widow Bride even at this point. Because the only appearance of the Widow Bride was at the game I missed. As far as I can remember. And I don't really know what all happened exactly with her. Except for that she destroyed and she ran.
I assume Widow Bride is tied closely to Fulcrum.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, is it devil? Or
right.
assumedly,
I just assume that it's tied to Fulcrum. When I first heard Widow Bride, the first thing I thought is that it's the bride of the Baron. And after Baron's death, she picked a new husband in Peg and has been orchestrating all this stuff. So I thought we had seen Big Bad End Guy and that we got this early reveal after taking down Peg because he was not really a Big Bad End Guy. 100 sessions he wasn't going to be. But then we saw this thing and I was like, oh, there it is. Maybe we got it. But now I'm starting to rethink a bit that maybe that's just another minor boss on the way to something bigger at the end. Because we talk about the hierarchy of monsters, right? We joke about CRs, but as you play through a D&D campaign, if you follow CR, eventually you find your way out of humanoid races and into monsters and constructs and then dragons, and like at the very end, and there's like the demons, the devils, and the celestials are like at the end. At that point, that's all you've got to deal with because they just don't create a lot of level 20 monsters. Everything's, you're fighting the Tarrasque or something, like that's all you got left. So, I guess for me, like when I saw a very large devil or demon that I could directly tie to potentially the Big Bad End Guy of the previous campaign, I was like, oh, that's it. That's our Big Bad End Guy. We'll get around to her eventually. But I'm not positive that's true either, but I don't know.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I never really made a Baron connection with that necessarily, but I don't know. So like that's all these things are kind of circling around with what I want to do with my next character is, like how do I tie in at this point? Because I need to make sure that there is some avenue that makes sense, that I want to be on board with the big narrative. And I need something that's going to be at least tangentially interesting to the rest of the party enough that they want to stitch together, in some way. And I don't know what those are at this point. And, of course, also it's important to make something that's going to be interesting and something that's going to have legs for the long term. So that is the problem I'm having right now. It's only been a couple days, so I haven't had a lot of time to think about it. But
all the Big Bad End Guys, Levi says, they're all there. It's a tag team 5-on-5 by the end.
Well, it turns out it's us. So whichever one of us survive to the end becomes a Big Bad Guy, and Balrin's the last one standing, because that's a tradition in our group. Every other character will go. Dustin's character will remain.
Hashtag spoilers. Balrin is the Big Bad End Guy.
Yep. I mean, we've known since the get-go.
We've known from the get-go. The best way to hide your Big Bad End Guy is to just make you one of the PCs.
It worked really well in one of the games I played. That Dark Ages Vampire game worked really well in. I made one of our players. I didn't intend it to be, but he became the Big Bad Guy. And that was pretty fascinating. Every game was about how they're going to stomp on his problems and all the nonsense he was going to create. And I was just like, okay, that's what's happening. It was like a little mini LARP just at a table.
That's a very LARP mentality. Like when you're, what you do is you get into the realm of PvP that you typically steer away from in most table games.
Yeah. Rum soaked and angry. That's true. Yeah, that is.
I have, and again, I joked with Levi about this once. We had like a very brief conversation, I think, once about it. And I was like, told Levi, I said, I got this sort of swan song epilogue for Bowron like already in my head. Like
Okay.
I've already got this idea now. Knowing I got 60 more games and shit's gonna change, like it might change, but like I already kind of have this idea of like the Bowron end game of where he might be by the time he's done.
Okay. And that's just gonna like float out there like that.
Well, I can see Bowron, unlike all the other characters, Bowron is not trying to get home.
Sure. I don't think any of us are technically trying to get home.
And if part of what Bowron is trying to do is make his own name, because like I said, part of what his story is he dropped his father's name, and this at the other. Like, I think he's gonna go where everybody knows his name. He's going for the Cheers ending.
Going to Cheers? Okay.
I think he very easily could go back to Vola Sands and just become Bowron the Demon Beast. Like by the time he's done on this side of the Everstorm, I could see him helping open a portal back and just being like, "I'm not going." Like,
okay,
this is where I belong, and just literally staying on this side and sitting everyone else who's still alive, whatever group of 4 characters that may be at this point, like, and sitting in the back and just being like, "This is where I belong," and that being the way that his story would conclude is being on this side as the Demon Beast of the Sands and whatever, with bands of little burbles running around worshiping him. Like,
God, of all the things to be worshipped by. I got this. How did you know what my next character is going to be?
oh, please tell me you're playing a burble. That'd be amazing.
God, it would be so... No, I'm not doing it.
Can't do it?
I could do it, but I don't want to do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I think we need to really figure out what motivations are amongst the group, what the driving factors are, outside of just kind of be there,
Sure.
And I think that's like, I don't want a character who's going to come in and just be like, yeah, hey, where are we going? Like, what are we up to?
Right.
Like, that's not an interesting character, and I don't see myself enjoying a character for more than a few sessions if that's all I got going on,
right.
So,
And you have an opportunity though. You're going to get to write a few pages worth of material, and we have a DM who will listen to it. And I think it might take a little bit of time before you start to see it weave in, because Levi will have to take new material that you're creating in your backstory and then weave it into what's kind of going on. So I don't think that's a terrible. I think you've got a lot of opportunity there that you wouldn't have with Skeezer going forward if you had continued Skeezer,
right
after this plot was done.
Yeah, I have an opportunity to tie in a little tighter. Because I know I have more knowns. That said, it's adding a new color to a group, right? So like it's going to be different. Like just like when Kodo joined and right and left, we had a big change in the dynamics of the group. Even though really in terms of what the characters were doing, there's not much of a difference. It's a guy who does damage. But the character's tone and style and personalities are drastically different. And how they interact with the players is very different.
I think what's different with this, and this again, it goes back to kind of what you were talking about, like, Wrighton didn't die.
Yeah, and that's a big difference.
Wrighton didn't go away. Wrighton was still on the boat.
Which was weird, yeah.
And we were still talking to Wrighton occasionally, but it was the DM talking back and not Clint. So it was like it was kind of weird because it was almost just like we were adding a new party member because we never lost the old one, even though he was not going out off the boat with us to go take care of a problem X, Y, or Z with the Wava, and he was staying back and working with his people. So we story-wise able to kind of write that in, but it was a little different on the game level because when Kodo came in, we weren't, there wasn't anything that was super, well, I guess kind of did because it was when we fell through the Everstorm technically. because I think he only played maybe one game after that. But so we did kind of have like an epic thing that went down, but it wasn't
due to him. Yeah,
but it wasn't due to him, right? So it was a more weird juncture by which to add a character and lose one than I think what this will be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's. Yeah, it was like the X didn't move out. That's right, Leviathan. That's exactly right. And yeah, Joker, that's exactly it. Yeah, our old bard is dead. Be respectful for Sir Reginald. Oh, my name is Sir Reginald. Totally different. Not the same guy who happened to be the bard with similar skills.
There's a part of me that at some point wants a party that's just so business-like that when a party member dies, they do like the Deadpool holding auditions for X-Force, right? Like we just have to sit down at a table at an inn somewhere and be like, okay, so tell me who you are and what you can do. And then like the player who had a character die or whatever has to come with like 5 characters. He has to role play that session and all of them have to interview and we pick which one we want to do.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Like we're a crew of a ship. We could technically do that and just go to the next port and just be like, all right, we're going to find us a new crewmate to replace the Skeezer. Let's go see if we can find one. And like Jeff has to come with 5 characters that we have to meet. And then all of us decide which one we want to be in the crew. Well,
that is a kind of a fascinating thing because the group has been downsizing intentionally. And I'm trying to think of reasons why the party would want to add another member. Like, what is it that the party needs, like from their perspective, not from like what I need to be as a character?
I don't think that's how this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it is either, but I think it's.
I think your new PC will just be the next of a many of people who will be thrust upon us. If you
it could be, yeah. I mean, that's the likely scenario, just because it's D&D. But I'm kind of curious, like, if that weren't the case, do you think that this group would seek out a 5th member?
Well, would the party just naturally seek one out? It's hard because, again, PCs are in the hierarchy at a different level than NPCs. We got an army of NPCs hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't know what we're missing if we don't get another PC. But us as players know that a new PC is going to bring some new spice to the story, an entire story of his own, like, new role play that, if steel sharpens steel, right? Like, It'll be something else for me to sharpen Bowron upon in some way,
sure.
Come into some conflict that'll sharpen who he is as a person in ways that I'm not going to get to explore if I don't find one. So as a player, obviously, I want the other player in, and I want to find out this new story. Bowron doesn't know that someone's about to come into his life that's going to change him. He doesn't have any extra idea. Like, this isn't like politics where he's like, I need to go to get someone else who sees things the way I do around here, so more things will go my way. Like, because I don't know if your new character is going to align more with Bowron's way of thinking or not. So, I don't feel like it's a true recruitment in that sort of facet. That's why I said it would be really funny if it was like a party where like it was such a group dynamic of like, well, we did lose our bard, we have to find another one. Like, let's go find musicians in all the taverns in this side of the countryside till we find us a bard we like. Like, it would be kind of funny to think of it in a business stance like that. So I don't know if the group would go look for one, but we're going to get one. In the same way that the group would not have looked for Kodo, but once we found Kodo, like, we were able to work on bringing him in, and now he's a more natural part of the party.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious if you guys see that there is a hole. Like, is there a skill set that is now missing?
I never look at the party that way to begin with.
I know you don't as a player
to begin with. So you're asking the wrong party member.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't worry about that thing. Like,
no, I'm just curious if, like, say, Balrin had the thought that there are things that I can't solve with my skill set, and that I need X, Y, or Z.
Well, Bowron's always got the answers.
Okay. It's all at the bottom of the bottle eventually.
It's either at the bottom of the bottle or one of his many various keen elven traits. So, it's fucking that's elves. The beauty of playing the narcissistic kind of arrogant guy. Like, he doesn't really need people for those things. Like, he doesn't need a meat shield. He is the meat shield. He doesn't. When the times are down and things become life or death, he's typically he feels kind of like he's the one who typically steps in and like attempts to save the day at that point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and because he's a druid, he's got a crap ton of options for how he can try to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not guy sword guy. You know, that's
Right.
He's got a wide variety of crap that Levi has not even considered. So
Yeah.
So you know, like I said, I it's not like Bowen's looking at the group going, you know, we really need a fighter. Like, we really need somebody to complement Kodo's large hammering of foes. Like, you know, I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing. Like, he might be like, I need somebody who appreciates rum as much as I do. Like, maybe that's you know his shtick. I don't know. Like, somebody with two good hands. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm curious because I don't know where the game is going in terms of the plot necessarily. I don't know where the party's going to want to go, and I also don't know what I want to play. So it's like this perfect storm of like, ow.
Now let me ask you this, because this is something I struggle with sometimes, and so I sometimes struggle when I have to make a PC, whether for a game I get into that I didn't know I was going to be getting into,
Mm-hmm.
or if a character suddenly dies and I find myself thrust into a situation of need to make a new character for any reason. If I am currently GMing a game, all of my good ideas have been put in NPCs in my current games.
Yeah.
And you're starting a homebrew world. You've been working on NPCs for 3 or 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
Are you concept dry at the moment? Have you put all your good concepts into NPCs and other things to flesh out your homebrew world, and you're like either going to have to reduplicate it for a PC in this world, or you're like
replace it? Yeah.
or have to go to some new inspiration at this point?
That is definitely part of the issue. There are some issues of that. Some of it is I had backup characters in mind, and then when characters change what they were doing, or players change a character, they kind of end up in that same space, and so I didn't want to do the same thing.
Sure.
And then just kind of like looking around the group, there's like there are things I like to do as a gamer, and I don't want to continue doing the exact same things over and over. But
Yeah, some of that's a system issue for you.
it is, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to make a character who's going to be interesting long term, that is entertaining for the group and for the audience and for myself, and trying to do something that's different from what I always do. So like I think I'm trying to make an effort to be a little outside of what I typically do, and
Okay.
every character is a little different, but there's some that are more fun over the long haul, and some, I don't know. This concept thing that's the tricky part. You're right. It is almost like a graveyard of ideas at this point because of how many other avenues that they're going in.
Now, when it comes to combats and things throughout Everstorm, you have been relatively a safe player with Skeezer. I always saw Skeezer as one who he hung back. He would use range, drop things up ahead, but I never felt like Skeezer really put himself in danger. Like a lot of times you wouldn't even get hit. There were many combats you never even got touched.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And I think it's just Jeff as a tactical player, like, isn't going to put himself in any undue harm. Versus like Bowron throws himself in the middle of harm because I think I got enough tools to get myself back out of it if I want to.
I mean, that's some of its player
But because
mentality.
of that, I started working on new concepts for a replacement for Bowron a long time ago in case if I ended up with 3 bad death saves.
Yeah.
So I already have like my next character in mind, having no clue how it's going to fit in the party, but I already have this idea of what I'm going to play next, and I've had it for a very long time. So I'm still sitting on it in case something does happen to Bowron, because it could. Like next game something could happen to Bowron, he could be gone too. Like it could happen. So because of all of that, I'm curious. walking into this game, you didn't know it would be Skeezer's last, but you knew it was a point where it might be. So
Yeah.
had
I
you
hadn't
given
thought
yourself
about
a head start on some concepts at all?
No, I had ideas of things I thought were interesting quite a while back. Like maybe 6 months ago or so, even. And then I just put them on the back burner, and things that I thought were kind of funny that might make a good character. But like last night, like I said, I had the inkling, okay, something could happen here where it would be the end, but I didn't believe it. You know, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you know, it's a possibility, but like, it's not going to happen. It's like a 10% chance, you know, or something. And so I didn't really plan ahead. I didn't give myself any runway, and I just assumed, no, I'll be playing Skeezer for the next 60 games.
I'll be honest. I don't even think Levi knew he was killing you until you were dead.
Oh, no, I don't think he did at all.
I think he thought at any point in time you were just going to ace your death saves, and that was going to be the end of it. Skeezer would pull back out of this thing.
Yeah, I can sense the same shock of DMness in his eyes that I would get. You know, like, oh shit, you know, like, where's this going? Oh no. So yeah, I think we were all surprised by it. But I don't know. I've got a couple concepts like loosely, but they're not like fleshy. They don't have enough on the bones to really go long term. And that's the hard part.
Okay, so follow-up question. We had a discussion over the last 2 weeks here in Wisdom Check.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that you're team guy comp, team comp guy.
Yeah.
When we started Everstorm, this is the first time really that Levi's ever strictly forbidden us to talk to each other about what we were making. Has he told you whether you're allowed to talk to us about what you're going to make, or does he want to keep that going forward that we don't know until we just meet you?
He hasn't told me anything one way or the other. Levi has been pretty good. He's just been saying, you know, like, whatever you want to do, let's do it. Let's make it work.
Right.
So no, he hasn't given me any orders of that nature. I could, of course, pick something that fits the party group dynamic and all that kind of stuff. I have been kind of considering that a little bit, just because traditionally damage dealing is not something I'm really all excited about. And if I made a character that's his thing, I'd probably get bored, I think.
So I guess my question is, what I was following up with it more is, are you going to reach out to the rest of us players to talk about it, to figure out how you're going to fit it or how you want to do it above the table, or wait until you're introduced to the game and have us figure it out as we go? Kind of more like we did with Kodo. Levi says he can't surprise them.
I don't know. I think
now that I officially asked the question, Levi's rethinking it, and he's like, "No, wait, nope."
Well, I think Clint's the type of person who likes to surprise the party and the players, and so I think that's a natural thing for him. I'm not a surprise person personally. I don't really care about surprises, but I don't know. I think it would make for a better fit, and I think it would make for a better story long term. But if he doesn't want me to run it past you guys, I'll just make it in isolation and he'll spring it on you. I am considering group stuff though, because like one thing I know is that some players don't care whatsoever what the rest of the group is. So like Dustin, I can make any character and you're not going to care what that character is, you know, in terms of how it, you know, reflects on your character or not. Like I can make a druid who is a druid of the coast and you'd be like, that's cool. Is he an elf? Awesome. Whereas some other players, Clint being one of them, I think if you have any similarity to his character, I think he's gonna feel less special and that will diminish his fun. So I want to be cognizant of that. I think we're pretty loaded on certain types of characters. You know, like we're pretty heavy on the just like beat things to death one-on-one kind of thing. And so like part of me wants to shy away from that. I don't want to play another wizard or an arcane caster because that's what I just played. So that leaves cleric, you know, like lore bard. Yeah, so there's like a few choices in there. I mean, kind of looking through the list, I could tell you.
Tricky. It gets a little tricky because you have a fighter rogue who kind of is a bard.
Fighter rogue
So
bard.
it's kind of
yeah.
like he's kind of picking up kind of three, but he doesn't ever come off as rogue to me. Like I feel like there's a solid spot for rogue if you want to do rogue still.
There is,
and we're far enough away from writing. I think that's not a problem.
Not seeing a lot of room for a rogue to be useful in our group. You know, like it's not like a traditional dungeon crawler where, you know, you need a trap guy, or we're not in urban settings where we need the like let's pickpocket people and be deceptive and that kind of stuff. You know, we're the outdoor adventuring, globetrotting, big mission guys.
Right.
So I don't know that rogue really brings much to the table in that. I mean, I like rogues. I mean, I played a lot of rogues.
I think it depends on what your rogue is.
Yeah.
If you think of a rogue only by his skill sets, then true, maybe.
Well, it's skills and backstab.
If you think of a rogue as a diplomat
Mhm.
or a spy or many other things that could be out there doing something, like you could be, I guess maybe not because they typically have to be casters, but like you could be like from the academy, or you could be from, you know, like you could be something like that, you know, that's working for some of these other things that we've come across, or you know, maybe since Skeezer's dead, you talk to Levi and he'll be like, you want to play one of the whatever those things were from Soraka Blaze. Like
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that.
A special, like not standard, you know, D&D, a Limworld special, if you will.
Good night, Amilg. We did talk about the possibilities there. There are 4 races available that are unique to the Everstorm. So we were talking a little bit about that before the stream started here, kind of getting some concepts and ideas there. Yeah, I mean, I have looked at that Whispers Bard, or kind of like a spy type character. It has potential.
I know what you're going to play now, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're going to play a Burble Cleric of the Drowned Hand.
Oh, God. This is
going to be great. This is
a worshiper of Balrin. Yeah. Ugh. Good Lord. Oh, yes, that's the majesty.
Oh, look, you even got the voice down. You've been practicing.
Oh, yeah, I can do a burble voice. That's a voice I can do. No, hell no. But yeah, I have been the one of the concepts I'd kicked around for a long time was kind of a shapeshifter, spy kind of guy. Haven't really kind of ironed out what he is exactly.
Kind of be cool, weird. Would be
Rogue
interesting.
Inquisitive subclass, Joe Pesci style. Nice.
Yes. Coffee Freak, welcome to the show. You know what would kind of be a neat idea? What if you came back with your new character as a Wobbin?
Dude, there's no way. I mean, that was one of the options because that's one of the
as one of Tulua's court. It wouldn't be that weird. You couldn't be one of Joina's court for sure.
No.
One of Tulua's, a survivor of Volasands, that like there could be a lot of like interesting stuff that could go because of all of that. Like, you know, I'm just saying it's possible. Like
I looked at that very, very briefly. I don't know. I don't know that the Wavin is one I want to do. If you guys are new to the channel, Wavin is one of the mysterious creatures that we've come across.
They're kind of a Triton. They're kind of the sea elf.
Sea elf. They're little avatar-y. They've been definitely a thorn in our sides for a very large number of game sessions. They've enslaved and murdered us.
Think about that till you just said it. You're right. They are kind of like the things from Avatar.
Of course they are. They're giant blue people.
I don't know how I never put that together before, Jeff. You just said that. I was like, yes.
I'm a little shocked that you didn't put that together.
Oh, man. Well done.
No, I know, Levi, I don't want to do a burble named Orange. Yeah, and they will never be able to rhyme with orange. So I don't know. I've got some ideas. I know that as a player, I typically get bored, like I said, of damage dealy characters. I like the creativity of spellcasting and like interaction, and I'm keenly aware that obviously combat is not the only thing that happens in the game. So I want to be somebody who has things to do, is going to be, interesting in a lot of different contexts. I don't want to be the guy that has like, oh, I've got the 2 skills. What do you got? Perception and athletics. Oh, okay, cool. Like, what do you do outside a game? I look at stuff and then I run to it and then I hit it. Like that's going to get real boring real fast to me.
Yeah.
And so like I like the idea of having lots of tools in my kit. I like things that give me lots of ways to approach the story, and lots of interests and things to get hooked into. And so I need a character who's going to be the type that gives a shit, that wants to be involved, that has hooks galore, that kind of stuff, for me to really enjoy myself.
And you only got to figure this out in 12 days.
It's no big deal. It's no big
Just
deal.
12 days.
Easy.
And nothing between now and then.
Yeah. Some of the things I want to do, I do want to have kind of a more gregarious personality, something that's bright, because I think that's something that's going to be absent once Skeezer leaves. And I think in the past I've had a tendency to play very reserved characters because that's just more of who I am. So I don't want to do that a lot.
Skeezer was a little departure for you for that.
I've had funny characters in the past, but this one was a very big departure for me. Like, he is very act first, think second. He's very, he'll have his paralysis of analysis, of course, because it's me. Right. But as a character, he was very like, shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing, and go along with it. Sure, let's just see what happens. I'm curious to see the result, that kind of stuff. It's funny because, like you said, that he's not very risk taking, but I felt like this is the character I took every risk that ever existed.
I didn't mean it in a like willingness to get into combat, like. He wasn't like the kind that was going to hide and let the combat like go past him. But like I said, there is something to be said that I think for like the first 7 out of 10 levels, you never took damage. Yeah. So
it was very rare that I got hit.
There's clearly a tendency to be safe as far as he wasn't putting himself in a spot where he was ever making death saves until this. Like,
that's true.
I think the only other time you got close to death was when a trap sprung and you fell, and I had to try to grab you in fulcrum.
Yeah, all the worst cases for Skeezer have been non-combat related. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. But the whole point of that was just that you hadn't been thinking of other concepts because you weren't putting your character in a position that it was very likely going to die.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to consider in this scenario, like just the nature of the game itself, the other players and the tendencies, the characters, what stories I think will be interesting for me. I don't know. I haven't even looked at multi-classing. Like, I know 5th Ed remade multi-classing kind of like easy mode to kind of put things together. So like I've been thinking just like straight classes this whole time, but maybe there's an interesting combo there somewhere that you can kind of bridge some concepts. It's like, on one hand, I like the magic as like more options, but at a certain point, like the levels we're hitting now, I think magic starts to get a little to fix everything all the time.
So the more of it in the party, you're concerned there'll be an oversaturation of fix-it spells.
Yeah, it's a lot of like I win automatically. You're like, oh, what's the plot? Okay, I got the answer. Okay. And I think the lower level spells, you have like, this tool gets me closer to the answer and then I have to figure it out, or this gets me over a hump, but then I've got to still work at it. Whereas I think once you start hitting these level 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, these spells start to get a little out there. So I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on if your problems scale. Like I said, like those spells will fix current problems if we had them without a problem. But by the time we get to where we have a lot of them, we're going to probably be dealing with things that it's not going to resolve them. Like, and that's the hierarchy of the CR of enemies. When the CR marches up, like you leave the humanoids and you move into the nastier things for a reason. Like, because those things don't typically always work on them very easily.
Sure. Yeah, we got an interesting spread of things that the players are involved in too. So like, obviously with Fulcrum, you've got the devil and angel kind of vibes. So that's like the two outsider camps. With, Kodo, you got your dragon concepts all played out there. With your character, we've got the old guard, like the old gods and
apparently the Fae.
And the Fae.
And the Fae.
Yeah. And then with Morgaine, you've got kind of a mix of the devils and the Fae kind of thing. So we've got a large spread of all that stuff, and it's like I don't know. It's trying to figure out what element we need to bring in to round it out without stepping on somebody else's toes.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, the one that comes to mind the most obvious to me is Rogue.
Mm.
But just because it's the one thing we don't really have since we lost Wrighton. Before Kodo,
Yeah, Artificer's not a bad idea.
Yeah, Artificer's not bad.
The only problem I have with Artificer is that Kodo is one of his defining traits is he is a crafter.
A blacksmith of sorts.
Yeah. So I don't like. I looked at Artificer because I thought that was kind of neat. I thought like Alchemist or the what's the other one called? Like the Battle. Can't remember what it's called. It's the other one where they get like a little mech buddy that they make. That looked kind of neat, but yeah, I was worried that would kind of tap dance a little too close to his kind of little gimmick thing.
Now, I mean, and you don't want to go back to Wizard because
Right.
you could do a different school of wizardry and it would definitely feel different. But
I don't know that it really feels that different. I mean, yes, I was gearing towards illusions, but
you kind of
It's
steered
just-
away from it with Skeezer over time a little bit. Like you were
Yep.
heavy illusion early on, and then kind of away a little bit.
I can't seem to get rid of that guy. It's interesting. I can actually click on that name and ban that. And can you? Oh, there we go. Bam. Get out of here.
Good work. I was just getting over here onto it as well to see if I could.
Yeah, I clicked
But,
off. That's like the fourth one of those we've seen recently.
I know there's been an increase in crazy bots and stuff lately. So
Yeah, no good.
get with it, Twitch.
But yeah, with the wizard schools, like it's still the same set of spells. And yeah, I was using a lot of illusions initially, but as you kind of go up the levels, they just disappear. like the options you have, and then everything else is just so much better than what you could pull off with an illusion. That's just like, all right, I'll use the other spells.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
The schools were never meant to feel like their own individual classes, I guess is kind of what you're getting.
Yeah,
at.
which is
there's
which
a
is
little
too bad.
flavor to them, but they were
Mhm.
never really designed to be like evocation mage only blows things up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they're all well rounded. They just have a propensity a little bit for one kind of spell or another.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were like a sorcerer, maybe you could be pretty hyper focused. But even then, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to be the fire guy, right? Like, or
Right.
whatever.
Fire.
Yeah, I would
Fire
get
guy.
that would get old after a little bit. I don't know. Cleric is kind of interesting. I think that the cleric has got some flavor there. We do have some divine casting in our group, but like you were saying before, I think Kodo is typically using those for smites instead of casting.
And Bowron's divine caster because there's no primal in 5e, but
No, there's primal list. Like your spells are semi-unique from the other lists. You have a lot of crossover, but
I was saying, I didn't feel like it was a separate list as well. I mean, I have a list as Druid,
Mhm.
but I didn't feel like it was pulling from anything that wasn't already kind of out there for the others as well.
no, there's quite a few spells that are only available to the druids, or like things you just don't get at all. Like it's there's a little bit of uniqueness there, but yeah, you are closer to that divine side of things. So like a lot of the abilities, like your heroism or like your enhanced ability, that kind of stuff, those are all going to be crossed over.
I think cleric gives you the easiest into the overarching plot.
It does, yeah.
I think because we're dealing with pantheons both with Kodo and Bowron, and apparently the Everstorm is tied to that in some fashion. Cleric is an easy in for kind of what's going on there. I don't know if that makes it more interesting for you,
Yeah.
but that's an easy in.
Yeah, the cleric was an interesting one. I mean, there's a lot of different clerics you can do. I mean, obviously there's the Tempest cleric, but I'm already playing that in another game. So that's the other problem. I'm already playing a cleric in Tim's game that he's running. So it's like, not only do I have the decisions of what's in our group here, but I'm also playing another game where I'm playing something else. So it's kind of limiting what I've got as unique options. Because I do like the cleric a lot. I play in that game. It's really rock solid. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. It's very varied. It's a very robust class. I feel like I got something I can always do, which is cool. But do I want to double up on it? I don't know. So I don't know. I think I got to reach out and start looking at if anything new has come out. And, look through the Unearthed Arcana and that kind of stuff, like for more of this like stuff like the Artificer or the Whisper's Bard that was mentioned before and that kind of stuff. Divine Soul Sorcerer. Is that essentially what, like a healer kind of guy? Is that what that is? I'm trying to remember where that came from. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to consider. It is difficult coming in midstream, I think.
I think whatever it is, like I said, it's you don't have to worry about stepping on my toes much. I have trouble every game deciding which spells I'm going to take because I like my spell list so much, and they're so varied, and there's a certain amount of overlap that I had with you as wizard.
A little bit, yeah.
I didn't see as much overlap with Kodo because Kodo's spell list is pretty minimal. As a paladin, he doesn't get a ton, and he's multi-classed with fighters, so he's got even a little bit less because of that. So I hadn't really seen a ton of overlap with him other than probably Cure Wounds. I guess it's probably somewhere in his list if he looked hard enough. Yeah. So that's just pretty basic. Like Bowron almost never uses it anyway. So, but I don't think you have to worry about overlapping that much with me because if you do have something, I've got 2 or 3 other things I know I can take.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not at a loss of options for what I'm going to use.
Yeah, I mean, there's other types of druids, of course, it'd be kind of interesting too that weren't the primary spellcasty type.
I was just saying as a divine caster in general.
Oh, divine caster, yeah.
If you went with a ranger, or if you went with cleric, like I don't think you'd have to worry about your spell list overlapping with mine enough that I couldn't find other things to do if there were spells that we shared. Like Skeezer had polymorph. It didn't stop me from feeling like I couldn't use polymorph. Like,
yeah, we were polymorph bros. Good times.
We were polymorph bros.
Yeah, I don't know. I might look at cleric a little bit more. Maybe look at. I have been looking at the lore bard pretty heavily. It looks pretty cool. Lots of skills, expertise. Things that they can do to kind of boost the party. Get to play kind of a more, I don't know, playboy kind of character maybe.
Now, I had another concept that I was going to play at some point down the road, and it's just I've had this concept for years, so it's I've never gotten around to doing it. It's the only bard I could probably ever play.
Okay.
I had an idea to play a bard who was a doomsayer.
All right.
And his whole shtick was just going around claiming that the end is here.
Yeah, that sounds like a very Dustin character.
I feel like this is like the Everstorm could be that for some character running around in this world. Like,
oh, no doubt.
Absolutely. If you want to do Lord Bard, like there's a way you could do Lord Bard where you could be like the guy with the sign. The end is near, repent. Like,
yeah,
you could do this cleric too if you really wanted to.
I mean, you could be Doom with anything. Like that was one of the things from the Pathfinder video game is they had Harem was the cleric you got, and he was the I can't remember what his name of the god was, but it's the god of ending and like fate. And so like all of his stuff was just about how everything grinds down to dust and it doesn't matter and you're going to be doomed to fail and everything's going to fail. And that's like divine, was like to accept that everything was awful. So he was like basically walking around with Eeyore. I was like, this is a Dustin character if I ever saw one right here.
It could be. Yeah, he could do that. That could work.
Oh, man. Well, we have talked till the last 10 minutes of our show here. It's usually where we do our Crazy Go Nuts outro. And I actually didn't think we were even close to that. But, yeah, a lot of things to figure out.
We're not confined, but I do feel like we've covered the topic pretty well today.
Yeah, I think we've got through it pretty thoroughly if I'm not going to be creating a character on on stream here with you.
Well, okay, just extend a little longer. Have you
Okay.
considered letting the audience help you create your next character? I mean, Levi did it for Pathfinder. Now, a little different scenario, but
Interesting.
have you thought about crowdsourcing it?
I hadn't.
You're not a big fan of random. Like, just the random rolls in Zweihander was killing your soul. Like, could you let someone else effectively help pick it? Like, maybe you limit the choices so you're not. Yeah, Levi put everything on the board. Like,
Yeah, I don't think I would want to do everything, because what'll end up happening is they'll pick a ranger and I'll be like, God damn it, fucking hate rangers. Or I'd be like a monk or something and just be like, maybe, I don't know, maybe when we get into like coming up with concepts, like the actual motivations and stories and stuff, maybe there's some room there. It might help. Maybe Wednesday, whenever I'm doing my DM prep, we can open it up a little bit. I do like the spy stuff. Like, that was one concept I did have in my head. I had like a particular thing I was looking to do with kind of like a spy mentality and that kind of stuff. So that has been kicking around. That was going to be the basis of the lore bard. Or I think there was the whisper bard was the other one I was looking at before. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe put a couple options out there, a couple combinations of options, and see what they do. The heck is a manger? I don't know what that is. You know what that is?
I thought he was going for Ranger, but I'm not sure what the
That's a specifically capitalized M. That is nowhere close to an R on the.
Well, I think he was referring to something in Ranger combined, like that's a conjugated word for like a specific type of Ranger.
Well, if it is, that'll be a curiosity for me here.
Maybe he left out the A and he was supposed to say manager.
Yeah, manager. Yeah.
I wanted to speak to the manager.
All the Karens show up and line up, ready to go.
That's right. You can summon Karens at will.
Yep, they just show up. I have a long argument with them. Yeah, I have a reroll on surviving wisdom saves due to verbal harassment.
The Monk Ranger. There you go. See?
Oh God, Monk Ranger. Boy, that sounds like a shit show. I guess it'd be like your Zen Archer. I mean, it's something that could exist, but it could work. But again, we already got an arcade archer. Grab arrows, punch people with the arrow. Yeah,
You're not wrong there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, got a lot to decide. I'll probably crowdsource a few ideas on Wednesday. We'll see what people think, and then
That'll be cool.
yeah. You can arrange hours. You'll shuffle people's schedules around, Levi, with the manger. Yeah. So let's, I guess, lay out what's going on for this week.
Sure thing.
Yeah. So what do we got? We have a guest next
Bardic
week.
Knowledge.
Yes, we do.
Bardic Knowledge is on tomorrow. Cameron's doing. It's you and Cameron, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I'll be on.
Yep.
He's going to be working on making some game music for our Pathfinder game. So little quick snippets. It's going to be good.
Nice.
Yeah. So no more quoting and giving credit for all the music I've been stealing from Incompetech is what they're called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is pretty cool.
That'll be nice.
And then Wednesday is your DM prep show.
So for the Pathfinder 2e homebrew game that I'm doing, where I'm being creative and making up a story and getting these guys through, I will be putting some ideas out. You guys will have an opportunity to interact with it with the channel points that we kind of generate, and you can inject NPCs. You can put in help me work on plot points. You can help me iron out concepts of locations and that kind of stuff, and then they're going to end up appearing in the game. And also, we'll probably throw, like I said here, some ideas about the 5th Ed character that I'm putting together. So that'll be on Wednesday, and then Thursday.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
Thursday would be 7 Days to Die. Clint is back.
Mm-hmm.
The server is still there.
Okay, good. It definitely looks like it needs a reset. That's for sure.
It does need a reset, but I was on it last night, so it is letting us still play. Shit at the Valrungalo is getting real.
Yeah. Did you see the crater in the bottom got a little more extreme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but I went down into my crater for a horde night, and it was like the bottom half of everything I built was just gone, and I was like, "What the fuck happened down?" I couldn't find my ledges I usually stand on. I was so confused. I was like, "Something happened down here, and it was not me, and I had nothing to do with it."
Yeah, there was a horde night. Some people were there, and it went real weird. It went real weird, real fast, and then just kept getting weirder and weirder. And there's also a hole in your base for some unknown reason.
I found the hole.
Yeah, I honestly don't know why they were there, but they decided to go there, up your wall, and then off the wall to get down to the hole.
Yeah, I fixed the hole. Unless there's been another one since then. But no, when I went down there, it was like there was piles of rubble around and all these like steel girders, and I was like, "What's all this?" Like,
some deaths occurred. Let's just put it that way.
I imagined. I was like, "Man, this got crazy quick down here," and I missed it.
It was one of those like, "Oh shit, it's horde night. Where are we at? I'm hanging out over here transferring something with Levi. What are we doing? I don't know. Let's get in the hole." Is this where he stands? Shit, this looks like death. And then it was for
That
Levi.
explains a lot. That
I lived,
explains
but
a whole lot. Like,
I fell to the bottom and I got stuck down there. We had to tunnel our way
that
out.
was the point. It was literally made to catch things. Like, and you fell in it. So.
There may have been 10 sticks of dynamite chucked down in there to help dig the hole out. We figured you wouldn't mind, given that the whole purpose is to create a giant, massive hole in the bottom. So that's what we did.
It was pretty funny because like the concept behind the Dusty's Inferno was to make it look as much like hell as possible. So I was clearing everything away except for the black and red iron like veins, and then that all just got blown up. So like it was just like now it's just a crater at the bottom.
Whoops. So yeah, there's that.
So I'll just keep digging it out. So that's Thursday.
Friday, I'm over at Air Laser's group, and they're running a Monster of the Week campaign, and I'm playing a mundane character in that game. So I'm just like the dude who just everything happens to all the time. I've got special abilities where if I get captured by the monster, I get experience. I've got like an ability that says like I know how to get out of shit, like whenever I get caught. And I've got an ability that if somebody else saves me, I get experience and they get experience. So all my stuff is about being a victim, and it's going to be hilarious because my character is the guy who sees all the monsters all the time, and he's sick of it. It's old hat.
So what you heard there, if you were paying attention, everyone, is that you're not going to see much of me this week because I'm not on any of those shows except maybe 7 Days to Die Thursday. But if you're wondering what I'm going to be doing with my time this week, because this was kind of intentional on my part.
Okay, all right.
Thursday and Friday, I am a resident GM for Zweihander
That's
RPG.
right.
I am one of the GMs for the virtual Gen Con for Zweihander, and I will be running the adventure from the back of this book. This is Mangausch, a supplement for Zweihander. And the adventure of the back is there's something about Marie, and it's a quaint little family story.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
So
it's got an R rating from what I understand.
My session is already sold out for the first half, and the second half I think there's still some seats open because the way Gen Con put these events up there, they didn't tie them together. So people buying events like tickets for session 2 are not necessarily the same people who are at my session 1. So that's caused some interesting work between the resident GMs who are going to be running these about what we got to do. So we're handling all that part behind the scenes right now, but it's hopefully going to go off without a hitch. It'll hopefully be a lot of fun. Be my first time GMing with an organized play group at a convention, even though it's a virtual convention. So
it's going to be interesting. Is that something we can watch? I assume not.
Unfortunately, no. Because all the sessions are taking place, I don't know if I need to talk to Matt Jowett, but I imagine the answer is no.
That's what I assumed. So that's cool, though.
I think at that same time slot, Daniel D. Fox is actually running something on stream for Gen Con. So there will be something, I think, on Zweihander that day at that time that I'm running. It just won't be me. So.
Gotcha. So that's, you said Thursday and Friday?
Thursday and Friday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. both days. So that's where I will be. I'll be on Discord. I'll be doing that.
Fantastic. And then
games for complete strangers.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting take. And then typically we have Everstorm every other Saturday. We just played, so this Saturday is no Everstorm. And we play Zweihander every other weekend on Sundays, which we just played. So again, not next weekend.
Yep. We got a Everstorm switched its weekends due to part of Levi's scheduling, and so the every other switched, and boom, now we're on the same weekends as Horror and Huttenberg. So you get those back to back, but this is not that weekend. So
it is not that weekend.
A whole lot of nothing. So that brings us back to next Monday for Wisdom Check, where it's me and you again. It's gonna be a special Wisdom Check because I'm gonna be on location.
Oh boy.
You know where that location is, Jeff?
I don't.
Indianapolis.
That's right. You were going to be locals.
I am. I'm going to be in a very, very nice hotel all next week for training, for work. I hope they have Wi-Fi. I'm thinking this hotel has Wi-Fi. I'm not concerned about that. So I'll be there. I'll have my phone. So I will be on my phone like I was for Everstorm. So I think that part will be fine. I just won't be able to see the chat, but it should work out okay.
All right. So we got that to look forward to, and that's our lineup. Other things you want to check out, if you're not part of our Discord, I will toss a link in there because I think our mod has gone to bed. If you haven't checked out our YouTube, we got a lot of old episodes up there. I am a little bit behind on getting some things up, like the Horror in Huttenberg needs to get put up there. My episodes of Pathfinder need to go up. We got some more Everstorm stuff that needs to go up. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go up. Some DM to Art stuff needs to go up there. Cam is supposed to be doing his own Bardic Knowledge stuff that's supposed to go up there, but that's not quite up there yet. So we've got a lot of content on there. You could probably watch it for like multiple years at this point, and there will just be more getting added. Now, we are closing in on 200 subs over there. So if you do get us to 200 subs, we're going to give away a Pathfinder 2 ebook. So if you want to get a chance to get that, help us get people geared over towards that YouTube. So share that link around, get people interested, and we'll hopefully get to that point. And then the last but not least, there are a set of links there for David Lee Pancake. That's his store, that's his Patreon, his Twitch, and his YouTube. And he is a 3D artist. He makes sculptures, and he's been working on our characters on stream. He makes dragons, he makes jewelry boxes, he does, he's getting into some ZBrushing now for like digital art and doing some 3D printing now. Lots of cool stuff. He has switched over to, I think, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. Or Friday days, rather. And so you can go catch him there. He does streams for about like 2 or 3 hours, and he's doing giveaways and all kinds of stuff, so you can get a hold of his art there, ask him questions, and have a good time.
And he did a super cool YouTube interview with another artist over the weekend. I caught part of
the Snailian.
Unfortunately, I had to leave before it was over, but it was super cool. Like, it was.
Yeah, he's looking to do more of that too. So you get a chance to see some pretty kick-ass artists, and he's getting a little community going. It's gonna be awesome. So check all that out. And I think that gets us around to the end of everything.
It does. And I found us a raid target.
Fantastic. So who are we going to go see?
Scabby Rooster.
Oh, the old Scabster. That's what I call it. All right. So we'll get loaded up. We'll see you on over there. And make sure you say hi.
They're
Thanks
doing
for
a
sticking around with
giveaway,
this.
so whatever they're giving away, make sure you enter.
Yeah, go win. Go win for us.
Go win. And then come back and tell us all about it. We're gone.